Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. Now, in this video I'm going to be talking about settler colonialism. Settler colonialism has quite a contentious history in the US, given the fact that many people from Europe immigrated to North America and decided to settle on these lands, build settlements, and impose their culture on the native people living on the lands. Settler colonialism coincided with the idea of manifest destiny. What is the idea of manifest destiny? It was the idea that the US needed to expand territorially and culturally westward throughout North America. The term was coined sometime around the 1840s, which is roughly the time period I'm going to be discussing concerning a certain figurehead and the statue or statues that have been built in his honor and have been brought upon in many discussions and have also caused people to vandalize him, especially at the college I used to attend. And funny enough, they always misspell the evil buzzwords they spray paint it on it every year. I can see someone is definitely getting their tuition's worth. But you may be wondering, who is this a statue of, and who am I going to be talking about? Well, it is a man by the name of Marcus Whitman. And to add to the fact that he didn't look like this, because this is not how he looked like. This is how he looked like. According to portraits and different interpretations. A bit about this man. The man was born in 1802 in Rushville, New York. He was a doctor, a medical doctor by trade, but was also a missionary, a Christian missionary. Around the 1830s, there was the rising sentiment of the Second Great Awakening, that it was the duty of fellow Christians to save others from going to hell. And you know what? I can't blame them. So, sometime in 1835, Marcus Whitman and his soon-to-be wife Narcissa Prentice, his colleague Henry Spalding, and also his wife Eliza Spalding decided, hey, let's establish a mission in Oregon country. There's some Indians out there and they'll appreciate our company and our teachings of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Along the way westwards, they took some stops, and with that I might also add that the men's wives, Narcissa and Eliza, are somehow credited as being the first non-Indian women to make the journey that far west of the Mississippi River, which is an odd flex, like as if they were going to call Guinness Book of World Records on that. And be like, good heavens, we made it this far west, surely they'll give us an award for that. It took them 7 months to make it westward, but they made it in one piece. They didn't die of dysentery or anything.
Well, that's what happens on the Oregon Trail. It's super boring, you hunt a little, and then everyone in your party dies a horrible death.
The Whitmans decided, hey, we'll settle in Wailatpu, near the Columbia Plateau, not too far from the Columbia River. While the Spaldings decided, hey, let's split up, and they ended up settling somewhere in Idaho. And the area Whitman inhabited was also settled by British, French, and Canadian traders, so some other people beat him to it, but, you know, they were off doing their business. But the land was native to the Cayuse people, who surely welcomed him. The Cayuse were open to the Whitman's ideas and what the other handful of traders kind of trickled in. They also taught them things like shooting guns, drinking beer, and using the toilet. Or something, I don't know. I don't know what they were teaching people in the 1840s and 30s, but I guess that's what they were teaching them.
Oh, you don't build a barn, dumbass. What do you think this is, 1785?
The Cayuse gave Whitman a chance also to cook on the religious side of things. He was cooking up something. The White Man's Book of Heaven is something that seemed to interest the native populations. They were curious and inquisitive about what Whitman was bringing over religiously. And it wasn't until his preaching involved everyone being sinners and eternally damned to go to hell, which was seen as aggressive to the natives. It was seen as aggressive to the Indians, and it didn't really sit well with the Indians they were inherently bad people that needed to be saved. So from there, the Indians just straight up stopped going to Whitman's sermons and did their own thing. While they were doing their own thing around 1843, the Oregon Trail was starting to see a flood of travelers heading toward the coast of the Pacific Northwest, since Whitman, the year prior in 1842, went back to the East Coast and told everyone, hey guys, civilization is very possible out here. Come and spread the good word too. But the good word wasn't the only thing that the white settlers were also spreading. Oh no. With that, they brought diseases and infections, European diseases and infections that the native people were not immune to because those were very foreign in the Americas and proved sadly fatal to the many of the indigenous populations. The Cayuse saw the Whitmans as a destructive and invasive force upon their land. They asked Whitman to leave many times, and they were like, okay, man, you've had your fun, but our people are not doing any good by your presence here. And we're literally dying because you and your people are bringing diseases that could game end us and our children within days. And Whitman completely dismissed that idea and of leaving. And he said, nah, you guys are fine. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. You see, Whitman could not leave because as a missionary, he could be considered a failure. He wouldn't be considered the Sigma male street Chad Thomas Shelby he had in his reputation to uphold.
Thomas Shelby, Mafia.
Mafia, okay.
Thomas Shelby.
Thomas Shelby.
Evet, Sigma.
Sigma, where are you from?
Fast forward now to November 29th, 1847. The Cayuse had enough of Marcus Whitman, the evil doctor. His medicine and presence weren't seen as welcome anymore now that he ended up almost killing half their population with measles-infested settlers. The Cayuse wanted to take matters into their own hands. A group of Cayuse ended up riding up to the mission and ended up game-ending Marcus Whitman and his wife Narcissa. In total, they killed 13 people at the mission and took about 50 people hostage. Essentially, this attack on the Whitmans made the white settlers mad. The Whitman massacre ended up turning the Whitmans and their followers into martyrs as they died preaching their message to the Indians. A war called the Cayuse War actually ensued between the white settlers and the local indigenous tribes. It wasn't until a treaty was signed in 1855, effectively ending hostilities and drawing new boundaries for the Indian Territory. The Indian Territory was significantly reduced to a reservation in the Umatilla, Oregon area. I gave you guys quite a long-winded history lesson. So what does this have to do with the Whitman statue I showed you guys earlier? It's one of the many things that carries controversy regarding the Whitman legacy since he became a martyr for his cause. People made memorials, statues, like about 3 of them. I think 2 of them in Washington State, one in Olympia, one at the edge of the Whitman College campus, and then one in the nation's capital. But I think the one in the DC was actually removed and replaced in honor of someone else's work. Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, my alma mater, the school I attended not too long ago, Whitman College. The college was founded on December 20th, 1859 by Reverend Cushing Ells, about 12 years after the massacre in honor of the Whitmans. For about the first 7 years, it primarily was focused to educate future priests, ministers. It was a seminary, but it didn't actually begin issuing actual degrees like we see today until 1882. Alexander J. Anderson was the first president of the college, coming from his previous position at another institution, the University of Washington. From the legacy of being martyrs, the Whitmans carried a myth to their name that was romanticized for years to come. I slowly learned about this myth in my later years at college, and there was a point that I heard from one of the college archivists that the third president, Stephen Penrose, was thinking about installing an equestrian statue of Whitman because he was that type of guy. He was a Whitman fanboy, and he was very much into the romantic myth of the Whitmans. I was in an art history class at some point in that college, and we inspected cultural artifacts from places even outside the Northwest because of how widespread the story of the Whitman massacre had become. Now it's not talked about in schools surrounding the history of the Oregon Trail, at least not as much. I didn't realize the actual history of the event until I got to college because of how brushed off the history is. Yet, there still exists 2 camps when it comes to the Whitman controversy. The people that are okay with with the statue's presence at the edge of the college campus are those that want it to be, or there's this other camp that are not okay with it and they want it, the statue to be run over by a train. I'm not kidding. I think I also heard someone was also disgusted by the statue, or so disgusted by the statue that they'd hope a train car derails from the nearby train tracks near the statue and hits the statue. So there's two extremes to this situation that are surrounding the statue. The statue is vandalized regardless of any recontextualized history that has been done in the recent years, that people still consider it a stain, a scar that must be cleaned up and removed. It didn't hit close for me, like at least the issue didn't hit close to home for me until I started attending the school on October 14th, 2019, about 5 years ago on Columbus Day. I arrived on campus to see the sidewalk chalked up with like anti-colonial messages, the guide signs spray painted with messages like stolen land. I saw a Facebook post about the statue being vandalized with red words. The word spelled out genocide. It was misspelled because genocide is spelled with an O, not with like two I's. So someone crudely vandalized the base of it. And the previous president of the college at the time was I heard was pretty livid about people vandalizing the college and the statue. And years later, I heard in meetings that she was very much law and order about containing things like this on campus. Because reasonably so, like if you're a college president, you're very much the face of the investors. You want to make you want to make the college look as appealing as possible. At the end of the day, you're the CEO of the campus. You're the one making the money and the big bucks and the community relations. And you probably don't want something like that to happen on campus, chaotically happen on campus. And fast forward to today on October 14th, 2024, about a week ago from when I'm recording this video. It happened again, this time with pink paint and someone misspelled the word colonizer. This time with like two I's, so I think someone is doing that on purpose, I think at this point, or they either need to go get some help at the writing center because holy shit. Anyway, with the jokes aside, history is complicated and always needs to be contextualized, and we just need to look at how the past happened, like factually and objectively look at things. I know it's always hard to look at history like this. There's always going to be some sort of bias or some sort of ideology and interpretations that are going to just shape the narrative completely from how we see it, how we see things. However, I will say that the vandalism at this point is futile because nothing is really being solved when you do this. And I think at this point, I may be falling for like rage bait because of how this is happening. But as it doesn't really help the case of like winding down the temperature. Although some people on the other extreme want to ramp up the temperature because it just doesn't bring enough attention to it. It just doesn't feel like it's also helpful to also sweep the issues that cause the vandalism to be swept under the rug, because not addressing this history at all or dismissing it can be quite dangerous. It leads up to the temperature rising. There's a saying that goes that for those who don't remember the past are also condemned to repeat it. The objective here is to learn from the past and move forward, which is why the college is very focused on these lectures every year to bring attention to this, especially with relations with the native tribes in the area today, especially how the college changed its branding within the recent years. The college, the college that's named after Whitman College, they changed their mascot from the missionary to the blues. And the name of the school newspaper was called The Pioneer, but now it's called The Wire. So if you want to read the newspaper now and cheer on the mascots, you gotta shape up to the times. Anyway, it's been 5 years since the first vandalism incident I witnessed, and I just wanted to talk about it because it's just something that happened, but it was just sitting in the back of my mind to make a video about and talk about this history. Because I still think about it today, of how my neck of the woods was shaped by the people who established this area, the people who lived in this area. But a lot of that is being actually forgotten, and it's not being contextualized properly. So I just wanted to make this video for the record. So remember, people, it's okay to Google spelling on words. Go do your spell checks before you vandalize a statue. And most importantly, learn from history. Make the present and the future a better world. Be critical thinkers and always think twice about what information is out there. The narrative that people want to portray on you. All right. That's it. That's all I got for you. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys want to stay tuned for more of my content, make sure to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.